Hello and welcome to You Ask For It. I'm your host, Ann Page. Well, my guest today has the face of an angel. Her name is LauraBenedict. She's the owner of the Red Barn restaurant in Augusta.
Listen, I can't stop a lot of what's going on in the world, and I can't not think about it. But I can go home and hug my babies. My nephew's 6'4", and he's got a little baby this big, and it's no bigger than the palm of his hand. And go home and hug him. That's what you need to do right now. Love your family. Everything else, well, you have to have faith that that's where you need to begin and end your life. And then everything will make sense. Now, of course, that's not that, you couldn't have told me that 5 years ago. And I can hear my words coming back at me.
Amazing.
And I can feel my own look when I would go, right. Somebody told me that 5 years ago. I would have looked at him and said, great, that's not the secret. Lady says the secret. What's the secret? I can't make payroll. What's the secret? The secret is go home and hug your babies. She goes, that's the secret? You ain't got nothing more than that? And I'm like, go home and hug your babies. I know that sounds simple, but that's what we've gone wrong a little bit. You gotta listen. You gotta have that heart connection.
And I think, too, you listen with your heart.
Yes.
We talked about that. You're not listening from here. You're listening from inside here. And maybe you could have never done that if you hadn't done that journey that you went through.
Let me tell you, 2 years to the day, December 19th, 2014, I was in this beautiful hospital. I admitted myself. I was on the 3rd floor, beautiful pomegranate-colored walls, cayenne pepper, this and that, right? It's a beautiful hospital. And I was blue papered. Okay?
What does that mean?
Let me tell you. Blue papered means I was there and they told me I could voluntarily walk out for treatment. But if you do, we're going to blue paper you and we're going to drag you back in. So there's really not much voluntary part. That piece isn't there.
Right.
So I said, so I can't really leave. And they said, well, you can, but we're going to bring you back. And I said, okay, because I was a threat to myself. Now, all of this is something I've been very, very clear about and very transparent about on Facebook, social media, and events like this, because people tend to see the lady that's kind and lovely and seems to have it. But let me tell you, I had to get to that point where I said to Johnny, my nurse, I wouldn't jump out of this window right now. I'm sitting on the bed. She said, good. I said, because Johnny, it's not high enough. It's only 3 floors. Coldest winter we've ever had. And I started to cry so hard, I didn't know how I was going to stop. So she, of course, was so concerned, because I do have a way of endearing myself to people, even when I'm as broken as can possibly be. So Johnny was worried about me, and she saw me leave days before I should have, probably months before I should have. And she watched me, and you can tell when somebody's looking at you from behind even, that you're a goner, and they know it. So I could feel her pity, and I walked out anyway, into the coldest Maine winter on record, and that wind hit my face, and it gasped. I gasped, and if I could have cried, I would have. But my tears froze in the socket.
Wow.
I couldn't even cry. I mean, how bad is that? So I get into my car and I drove, and of course that was 2 years. The gentleman comes in and he's delivering the mail. I get the pity look from him for God knows how long, because everything he delivered were registered letters. And I was so embarrassed, and he tried to hide them and give them to me on the sly and stuff. He comes in. 2 years, December 19th, 2016. And he says to me, congratulations. He didn't have any registered letters. I said, oh, no bills today? Boy, that is a triumph. So I start laughing. And I take this letter and I said, and he looks at me and he smiles, no pity. He smiles and he walks out and he had a spring in his step like he was happy for me. I said, wow. So I open it up. December. President Obama. Saying, handwritten letter from President Obama saying, on the 2-year anniversary of my wanting to jump out but it wasn't high enough, 2 years to the day, President Obama saying, thank you for being a pillar to your community. And I'm like, Let me tell you about being a pillar. That lady couldn't even cry.
Wow.
How did that happen? So I said to Peter, hey Pete, what's the date today? He said, I don't know, 19th? I said, yeah. I smiled. You let me know. How does that happen, Ann? Is that a coincidence?
There are no coincidences. That's what I believe. None.
You couldn't have possibly told me that. And this is the last month in office. Hey, politics aside, last month in office, realize the mail he had to send out? Well, the mail he got that some 100 aides had to go through for him, and that made it out. And I went, that's a sign.
Yes.
That's a sign that people will be rewarded, even if it feels like you're running in place. You will be rewarded.
That's so encouraging.
You have to be. And there's growth. Even when you feel as low gets. You know what you need to do, and this is going to sound contrite and all this stuff? You need to stop that recorder that says you're worthless, you're nothing. You're the only one that pushed play.
That's true.
Nobody else did. So I went like this. I literally went like this. And I pushed stop. Maybe that isn't true. That's in here. That's nobody else. Nobody thought that way.
Nobody was telling you that.
Nobody was telling me that. Now, of course, that sounds kind of crazy.
Not to me.
And I thought, you know what? If I were to talk to people, which I do, I guarantee that some people, more than some, would be able to relate to that. Maybe not themselves, but knowing somebody who knows somebody maybe. When I said something to this audience of all these people that were way more money than me, way more connections, I said, I guarantee there's not one person in this room that isn't struggling with something. And nobody said no. And that's true. There's so many people that are going to be watching this show.
Absolutely.
That go, you know, maybe you can have answers because of the pain. Maybe you can. If I didn't know how bad that felt to have my own tears so frozen they couldn't come down my cheeks, then I wouldn't know how good it feels to hear from the only ruler of the national free nation, the only.
That's right.
Now that feels real good because I know how bad that feels. So when I go out and talk to people, my customers, child poverty, I lived it. Bullying, I lived it. I was like 35 pounds and I was 11 years old.
Wow.
We were laughed at all the time and teased and made fun of, and going to school and going to be seen was horrible. What do you do?
And alcoholism.
Oh, for all of us. All of us. You walk down the same path. You know, I always said when I was a little girl, because we were able to climb higher, run faster, dive deeper to avoid the havoc. We just knew. As an adult daughter of an alcoholic, I had, and I didn't know this at the time when I was a little girl, I had this hypersensitivity. It was unparalleled. I could be right next to you and you wouldn't know I was there. I had this uncanny ability to disappear because I knew when trouble was about to brew. So as an adult, I think that that is an asset to a lady that struggles in business. I have that uncanny ability, that sixth sense, that heightened awareness when it comes to seeing my customers in pain or lonely or too proud to ask for help getting up. And I can see that from a mile away, and I don't know how I do it, and I sure don't want it to stop. And if you're 90 years old and you can't get back in your car and drive back home, that's paralyzing. So I just say, hey, can I help you? I sure could use some company. Oh, but they got to believe you.
Well, I think all those
trust.
trials are blessings. Every trial that we encounter can be a blessing because it will enlarge us as people.
It deepens my understanding for those who are struggling. My compassion, my empathy is so high, and the relatability is so high for my customers, for the people I employ, for my friends and family.
It shows.
It's high because I will never forget how bad that feels, or even the small triumphs that happened.
Right.
Like my first taste of Pepsi. I never had that stuff. The first French fry I ever got from a McDonald's, I put under my tongue for 2 hours because I didn't want that to go away. I savored the goodness whenever that did happen, which was usually not very often.
But you're savoring it still.
Now, I could eat a whole bag full of fries, but none will ever taste as good as that one did.
That first one.
44 years ago. But that's what I'll never forget. And that's what I think that it's kind of hard for people to believe.
Why?
Because it would be easy to just make money. But I don't want to do that. I said, I'm the world's, and I will say this to every camera I ever see, or every person, I am terrible at making money. And that is the last thing that this business will ever try to do. Because that may work for some, but it doesn't fill me up. That's it. Going to the nursing home, the veterans home, that fills me up. When I get to go on and experience the glory days, because there were a lot of them for a lot of those folks, a lot of stories in those dark halls, a lot of people that will never hear them, because you have to take the time out of your busy day to do that. I've been asked, actually, you're too busy. Aren't you too busy to come and do so? I got names of all the patients, all the nursing homes. I know all of the menus, because then I know who likes what. And I try to be able to, and I said, or had said, you're never too busy to do the right thing. Nobody should ever be that busy. And I tried being that busy. I tried. You ever know those types, Ann?
Of course.
I'm so busy I can't see straight.
Right.
My house is a mess and on and on. I was one of them. And I got nothing done. Now, I have all the time in the world for that one man who's waited so long for me to come back and say, where did we leave off? We left off at the Iberian Peninsula.
Unbelievable.
And he said, okay. And he may not know today, and he may not recognize me again, but he remembers how he felt when he was there. I don't think that there's a gift any better than that.
I don't think so. And tell me about that Purple Heart you're wearing.
The Purple Heart was given to me by Don Tuttle, who 50 missions, he called them suicide missions, and in fact they were. He was a tail gunner. He was a tail gunner, and he went 50 missions over enemy territory and was just a sitting duck 50 times. And he was young, and he had a friend named Frankie, and he said, Frankie, we got to jump. They were over Italy, enemy territory, and there was a hole the size of this entire building in the plane. Frankie, we got to jump, we're running out of gas. And the plane started to careen downward, and Frankie didn't want to jump, he was too scared. Friends, they were such good friends. And Mr. Tuttle jumped, and Frankie jumped, but too late. And his parachute got sucked up into the engine, and he watched his friend die. And he said to me, Laura, there's not one thing, not one day where I don't suffer. I will never forget how bad that felt. So he, of course, had knighted by the French Legion Army. So he comes in one day,
Right.
driving, didn't have his usual sort of charismatic self. You know, he's wry, his wit. And he said, I could talk to you. I said, okay, it's 9 in the morning. I said, I go running out. I could tell by the look on his face something was up. And he handed me this. And I knew what it was, of course, naturally. Talked to millions of veterans. And I said, what are you handing me that for? And he said, I want you to have it. And he got emotional. He said, I want my heart to beat with yours. That's what he said.
How did that make you feel?
Well, I didn't believe it. I want my heart to beat with yours, he said. Then he knew we were getting too emotional, so he broke the ice by saying, besides, it looks better above ground than below. And he walked out, and I watched him leave. Oh, I didn't. I watched him. I helped him out to the car. And he said to me, you're the bravest woman I know. So I never take it off. And this is one of 2 he's got. And every other medal under the sun. But that isn't what makes him a hero. That's not what makes him a hero. What makes him a hero, to me, isn't this. It's how he still pines for his friend. Isn't that great?
After all those years. You know, I began the show with a story about a Holocaust survivor that I interviewed named Esther, the same name as your grandmother. And when I asked her friend Rosalie, how did you know it was Esther? And Rosalie said to me, she has the face of an angel. And I looked at Esther, and she did. Her face glowed. And so I said to Esther, what is your secret? What did you do? And she said, whatever I had, I shared it. And no matter what anybody did to me, I never did it back to them.
Correct.
I was always just kind and loving. But you embrace and embody that. Whatever you have, you share it.
I never used to, though.
But you do now.
And that's what landed me in the horrible places I had to be. And I would love to scream at the rooftops, don't do what I did. Be better. You can be better. It doesn't matter what it is, a smile, a wave. Just be better. And that's all. It doesn't take money. It doesn't take $28,000 in 2 hours. It doesn't take saving a life. Just be better. You wouldn't believe what a smile could do for somebody. A smile could make a person feel again and not take things personally, because people will come at you. I'm in the service industry, and people will come at you if they're not happy with their lives, and they will try to take it out on you. A guy threw a credit card at me and hit me and drew blood. He threw it like a ninja, and I started to cry when he did that, because I knew it wasn't about me. All I did was smile and say, can I help you? And he was so upset. And I handed him his credit card back. And I said, thank you, friend. And he broke down just like that. And he said, what am I going to do, Laura? I said, what do you mean? He said, my wife just died of lung cancer, 42 years old. Never smoked a day in her life. Now I got a baby girl with her exact same eyes. What am I going to tell my baby? I said, tell her you love her. And he gave me a hug, and he got his food, and he walked out. And I can guarantee you one thing, he won't be rude to somebody else, because it wasn't about me. When I go through life, I see people like that, like me. I would get so angry because I was so sad. And now I go, it's okay. It's the me. And I want that. And I say, people can understand me now, because I admit that. That's why I cry all the time, because it just, this emotion comes up, because it's such good emotion.
It is.
It's so hard if you're so sad. And now I'm like, it's okay. So you can't make the bills. It's okay. There are a lot of people out there, like Esther and Rosalie, who triumph. And that's got to be a good feeling, to go, I never did that. I was always kind. And if I could be that person,
you are that
my grandmother.
Person. You are that
Ironically
person.
enough, the name you said it, and I was like a mess as soon as you said that name. But why? There again, we've just sat here for 40 minutes, right? And come upon these uncanny happenings.
We have.
Imagine if we actually knew each other. If it weren't on the lights of this thing, see, I feel like I could talk to you all day.
I do too.
And how is that?
It's wonderful.
Because there are no strangers in this world.
That's true.
I said, strangers are just friends you haven't met yet.
That's true.
Come on in. Don't get me wrong. I get some people that look at me like I got 6 heads, right? I come at them like this. And I'm in my, hey. I mean, they're not from here, right? They don't know Maine.
Right.
They don't do that where they're from. And I'm like, you come by the end of the meal, by the end of the time that this gentleman sees me walking around and hugging all my customers, he gets up, he barely gave me the time of day, pushed me away, in fact. He said, where's my hug? I said, oh, I didn't think you wanted one. He wouldn't let go. And he left with a very different attitude.
LauraBenedict, the Red Barn Restaurant in Augusta. Go and get a hug.
Yeah.
Go and get your soul
Yeah.
fed. Thank you so
You're welcome.
much for being my guest today.
You're
You
welcome.
filled my cup to overflowing.
I cried the whole time.
It's okay.
I don't know how he's going to edit the tears. It ain't never going to happen.
He's not going to edit them because they were beautiful. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for
You're
being
welcome.
my guest today. Thank you for watching, and I invite you to please visit the Red Barn Restaurant in Augusta. If you haven't already done so, I'll be back many times.
And
I can
tell a
promise
friend.
you that. Thank you so much. Sweet dreams, everybody. Thank you for watching.